It's the home team who get us underway in this second half after completely dominating the first 45 minutes. Phoenix haven't won in their last 5 visits to the SFS. That looks like a long shot based on their form in the first half, but I guess stranger things have happened, Trimmers. Where there's life, there's hope. Maybe all those saves from Danny Vukovic will come back to haunt Sydney FC. Because Wellington certainly need to improve a fair bit, but Sydney FC's wastefulness in some cases in front of goal as well. It's not just the saves from Vukovic, it's also the finishing of Sydney, which has proved to be their undoing.
Absolutely. Sometimes, as we said before, stats can be misleading because you look at shots on target or chances and it doesn't tell you where they came from, but all the looks they had at the target were from directly in front and close range, and therefore they'll be very disappointed.
Got themselves an early free kick here, Sydney. It's going to be taken by Jamison, but not enough height on the ball. Still with the Sky Blues. Clipped towards the back post, but overhit by Matt German. Difficult few days for him, having decided his future lies elsewhere.
Yeah, big decisions for the young man. Seems to be happening more and more often, doesn't it, in this salary cap era of the A-League and introduction of Australian teams into the Asian competitions as well, opening the door again to other opportunities.
Yes, of course, Alex Brosk has now joined Shimizu S-Pulse in Japan after that protracted release from Sydney FC. Moriyasu caught late there by Brown, and the Japanese player has stayed down.
We spoke about the decisions that players have to make as we see this Nicky Ward just a little bit late into the tackle. But it's also difficult for the clubs as well. Only small squad numbers that they can use. There's always that challenge between long-term contracts, flexibility within the salary cap. So it is one of the more difficult times from both perspectives, I think, in terms of decisions that have to be made.
And Levicka actually quoted in the papers today saying it's difficult for him to make decisions about players given that his own future is also uncertain. He is contracted until the end of the group stage of the ACL, but beyond that, who knows? It's understood Sydney are talking to potential coaches for next domestic season. So I guess the club in a state of flux at the moment, Sydney, in terms of trying to sort out their squad, not just for the ACL, but perhaps more importantly for the next A-League season.
Absolutely, and so often you hear about coaches coming in and inheriting a squad of players that they're not necessarily the ones that they would have chosen. How can you turn that around? Do you have the flexibility? And again, what are they saying about Levicka if they're looking around? What does he have to do in the Asian Champions League to guarantee his future? Or is it already too late?
Have to wait and see on that one, of course. A few of the names, in fact, being mentioned with Sydney FC: Scott Chipperfield, Paul Reed, Richard Porter, that mystery Australian Uruguayan who's playing for Nacional in Uruguay as well. So the Sky Blues are certainly looking to strengthen their squad. Of course, they have announced the re-signing of Carol Kissel today as well. But after a season like they've had in the A-League, no surprise really, they want some new blood in here. Herfield's cross. Daniel was at the back post. He hooks it over his head. And Tim Brown produces a decent effort. Does have a tendency for the spectacular. Tim Brown.
That was better forward movement from the Wellington Phoenix. They have looked at their best when they get the ball into the wide areas and allow their midfield to get up and join the attack. As you said, often in the first half, McAllister was isolated. When they take that extra couple of passes and build up down the flanks, they allow players to get in and support him. And as we saw, the ball got half cleared and Brown was able to capitalise and get the shot on target.
Keller. Looking for Shannon Cole. Well, he always wears his heart on his sleeve there, Terry McFlynn. He's imploring his team to do better. Wellington know they need to get physical to perhaps stem this tide from Sydney FC. And speaking of getting physical, Moriyasu on the receiving end of a crunching challenge from Ward. He's up and about, which is good news.
It was fairly evident in that first half. Sydney were not only winning the first ball in any challenge, but were more often than not winning the second ball. Led to numerous opportunities. Generally, that's one thing that the Wellington Phoenix pride themselves on.
McAllister the target. Reddy comes out and claims. He'll be pretty keen to keep a clean sheet tonight, Liam Reddy. Justify Levitschka's decision to give him a start ahead of Nosevsky. He's had such an up and down season, hasn't he, Liam Reddy? Did wonderfully well for the Phoenix after leaving the Raw second half of last season. Hasn't had the same consistency since arriving here at the SFS. McKellar. Kazarine, good ball. Carl through. Has he got the speed? Still going, Nicky Carl. No, he doesn't. Crossing cover was North. Two former Newcastle teammates come together.
Again, that was clever combination play. That front three for Sydney continue to look threatening. McKellar did a good job. He drew the defence to the sideline, inboard to Kazarine. Nicky Carl's first touch was delightful. Got the ball out in front of him, but Jade North just had too much closing speed for him. But again, his willingness to run from midfield is proving telling, Nicky Carl.
You would imagine Nick Carl will enjoy what is often a more technical game in the ACL. A bit more space to work with for Carl against the likes of Suwon Blue Wings and Shanghai Shenhua. And Kashima Antlers as well. How do you fancy Sydney's chances in the ACL, Trimmers?
I think it's going to be very tough for them. As we saw, the Korean teams really dominated that competition last season. Kashima well versed in Asian Champions League football themselves. The key is how they start. They have to start well with the home games.
Carl working with Moriyasu. He's got McKellar out to his left. Finn gives it back. Carl goes down. That will be a penalty. A decisive contribution there from Nick Carl. He started that move. He's earned his team a penalty. And here's the chance for Sydney to get the lead they probably deserve.
And again, the combination between the front players. And for me, a real telling sign of where Nicky Carl is at physically is his willingness to give and go and get past that front line. When he was coming back to fitness, often he would play the ball, stay behind it. But now he's really challenging people, and he was just too clever for young James Musa.
It was clumsy from Musa. He's a left-sided player. He's caught on the wrong side of his body there. Clear penalty, easy decision for Peter Green. Can Nick Carl make the most of it? No, he can't. He gets a second chance, surely, and a third chance, and finally it goes in. A huge stroke of fortune. Third time lucky for Nick Carl. And he knows how lucky he is. Poor old Danny Vukovic. But Sydney get themselves the goal to take the lead.
Well, Danny Vukovic, no wonder he stands there with his hands on his hips. That's bordering on the ridiculous. He saves from the first kick. Nicky Carl doesn't panic, but then Vukovic lunges, saves again. And then unluckily, the ball cannons off Nicky Carl into the back of the net. And finally, Sydney FC, really without knowing too much about it, take the lead.
We'll have a look here. Did that come off?
Oh, it might have even been off the defender, Nicky Ward, trying to get back.
Goal, perhaps.
But Danny Vukovic, so unlucky.
Well, an element of farce, you'd have to say, about Sydney's goal. Here they come again. Moriyasu Decent effort too.
Well, you just sensed that it was going to take something spectacular or something ridiculous to beat Danny Vukovic, and I think it was Nicky Ward in the end who came in to try to save the situation. And the rebound off the goalkeeper's legs cannons off the midfielder into the back of the net.
Well, there you go. Confirmation it is in fact an own goal for Nick Ward in the most bizarre circumstances. Well, it was probably going to need a bit of the bizarre to beat Danny Vukovic tonight. That's exactly what happened.
Well, in the end, you'd imagine Danny Vukovic would be saying to Nicky Ward, stay out of it. I'm doing all right against Sydney FC on my own.
An own goal from a penalty. Interesting. Moriyasu. Kazarine. Plenty of sky blue shirts in the middle. It's not a bad delivery from Jamison. Ryle, early ball out wide to McFlynn. He's still got options in the middle. That's a good ball as well. Musa's done well to get his head to it. Well, the Phoenix are rocking all of a sudden.
You can just see the confidence flowing through Sydney FC at the moment. They dominated that first half. They're in a good run of form as well. Unbeaten in 6.
Down goes Jamison. Well, the first few minutes of the second half, it looked as though Wellington might have regrouped. But that goal has certainly brought a familiar type of pattern to this game. Sydney have the lead, they have earned it, they should have had it in the first half. They've got it now. They'll be looking to underline their control of this match with a second goal, perhaps even a third. Wellington look a little bit shaky, to say the least. Here's good work down that left-hand side by Lockhead. He goes near post looking for Greenacre. Seen very little of Tony Lockhead on the overlap so far. Rojas. Good ball into the near post. Almost contact from Dylan McAllister. Well, that's clearly the avenue back for the Phoenix down this right-hand side with Marco Rojas.
Yeah, wonderful work from Rojas. We saw that exact bit of play unlock Adelaide United. Greenacre on the end of it. This time it was McAllister at the near post. Couldn't get anything on it. It was perhaps a little too far advanced. And Nicky Carl, nice and cool in that 6-yard box.
It's Rojas with the corner. Whipped into the near post.